Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dichotomy Diaries. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to give you a trigger warning. What you're about to hear involves discussions of sexual assault, power dynamics, and abuse. If these topics are sensitive or triggering for you, please take care of yourself and feel free to skip this episode if needed. Today, I'm sharing a story that I've held onto for a long time. It's been something buried deep inside of me for God knows how many years. It's something I kept quiet about and something I tried to pretend didn't affect me. But the truth is, stories like these only continue to haunt you as long as you let them stay silent. Silence is their breeding ground. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've held onto something because you thought speaking up would make it worse. Maybe you thought nobody would believe you or that people would look at you differently. I get that so much. I thought the same thing. But the longer you keep it in, the more it eats away at who you are and who you can be. And that's what today's episode is about. Keeping someone else's secret for so long, feeling like it's wrapped around you, like it's defining your life, until you realize you can't carry it anymore. And that's where I'm at. I'm not here to sugarcoat this at all. It's because sometimes speaking out is the hardest thing you'll ever do. But trust me, it's also one of the most important. Because once you share it, once you release it, you begin to take your power back. There are people out there who need to hear this. People who felt like they're the only ones. Same thing goes for the story with Dick, right? You're not alone. Your story matters. My story matters. And as much as it hurts, and as much as we might want to just forget it ever fucking happened at all, we owe it to ourselves to speak. Not for revenge, not for validation, but for healing. So today I'm going to share a story. And maybe after hearing it, you'll feel the strength to share yours. And remember, because seriously, no matter how dark it feels, bringing it to light is the first step towards freedom. And also remember, you always have a seat at my table to share your story. You have a microphone and you have an audience that probably has gone through the same exact thing as you. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Again, this is really new for me, letting you guys in to seeing me on the mic actually do a full podcast episode. So forgive me if I am not like full-blown eye contact. I'll try my best. Um, but yeah, I'm also going to be looking back at notes. So again, I'm going to do my best. So I guess I have to paint the scene, right? And give you guys a little bit of a timeline. In 2011, I was married to my high school sweetheart. We were together for 7 years and we got married because there was a lot of pressure from our families to do so. And like, what else do you do after 7 years, you know? So we got married, had a big fucking David Tutera blowout wedding. I think it cost my family like over $100,000. Um, we had it at Venuti's in Addison and big Catholic church, full hour plus ceremony. And, you know, without going too much into detail about that, we were only married for about 6 months before it ended. And it ended for a lot of different reasons that I think high school romances end. Um, but really came down to a lot of pressure surrounding having children, fertility issues, and just fighting about that. So I got divorced the same year that I got married. Um, and this was when I was 21, so that was 2011. So I moved back in with my mom, actually, where I'm at now. Um, and I was going through a lot of therapy. It was difficult to kind of just like admit the failure because that was 7.5 years. That wasn't like the whole dick thing. Like, yes, way more trauma in the dick thing, but 7.5 years of my life in a very formative time in my life was extremely difficult to get over very fast. Living in a small town where I live, I felt like everybody knew me and everybody knew me as my ex's partner, girlfriend, wife, whatever it is. So I felt like everywhere I went, every stop sign I stopped at, every aisle in every grocery store, I would run into somebody that I really wanted to avoid and not talk to. I didn't want to talk about it. It was embarrassing. I'm not embarrassed anymore because shit happens, right? Like this is life. But I was embarrassed. And there wasn't really part of me that was thinking about, oh, okay, let's find my next person. Nothing like that. So I took a little bit of time off from friends, from life, just from everything. And it wasn't until 2012 that I actually downloaded Tinder. And don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty positive that Tinder like came out that year or like a few years, like it was right around that time, okay? So it was relatively new and it was one of the only ones too, because you had like Match, which you had to go on your computer to use. We didn't really have apps, right? Um, but Tinder was like, oh, wow, okay, this is cool. All right. And I remember being like at Banditos and like swiping. I'm like, this shit is crazy. You can like, it's like ordering these men up like pizza, you know? And I remember matching with a man, and we're going to call him David. And so I'm going to look at my notes, okay? David wasn't the typical guy that I would have normally gone for during this time. He definitely didn't look like my ex-husband. And if you ask all of my friends, I think that they would say, like, he was pretty nerdy. Like, what do you mean you find him cute? Um, he had small eyes. He wore like a beanie and a scarf. He had facial hair and like dark frame glasses. Um, I feel like you can kind of like picture almost like a hipster vibe. And so that's like what his profile looked at. Um, at this point in time, right, I was trying to not make the same mistake. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to think like outside the box. Like if these are my likes from before, why don't we expand on that and give other people an opportunity to be in your life? And we don't have to judge them based off of how they look, their job, anything like this. So I matched with this David guy, okay? And I I figured like why not? Because I wanted to like push whatever shallowness that I had like into my back pocket and be like, no, you know what? I'm here because I'm a good person, not because I want a hot husband, somebody who makes a lot of money, like whatever. So I do need to be clear, like David was he wasn't hideous. He was a good-looking guy. But again, if you guys would see him, you'd be like, Really?" So just keep that in mind. This was like definitely uncharted territory for me, and I was super nervous, but we had matched, and so I had sent him a message. So to give you guys kind of like an idea of what his profile said, it said, oh, his name was David. He lived in Chicago. He was 32 years old. Profession said doctor. Hobbies: reading, guitar, fine dining, and wine. What is he looking for though, right? A girl who I can settle down with, someone who likes to go out on the weekends, but knows how to calm down and lay low during the week as I have a really busy schedule considering my profession. So I was like, a doctor? Okay. I know that like healthcare life, mom, dad, now brother, right? Like this is the background music to my life and I speak that language. So I thought it would be something that we could connect on. And it really like turned out to be. We started up a conversation and a lot of the things that he would talk about in terms of work and studying and all of these kind of things um, were medical language and I knew that language, so it was definitely something that connected us. Um, it definitely made our connection pretty strong. I think I probably put more value on that than I really should have. Like, okay, I know how to speak healthcare. That doesn't mean we're a good match. Um, but it was definitely something that I wanted to explore deeper. So I'm out in the burbs. David is in the city. All I know is Chicago. Okay. So we decided that like the upcoming Thursday, we probably talked for like let's say like a whole week, probably. So the upcoming Thursday, we were going to meet for coffee. I don't even like coffee. I like tea. I never drink coffee my whole life. I'm a tea girl. So I think that through conversation, I unraveled that David lived downtown Chicago, pretty close to like where some of my family lived in or around like the River North area. And I always used to say that like I was familiar with Chicago, but the fuck I was. Like, I swear, I knew where River North was and how to get exactly to like my family member's house. But if you asked me like about neighborhoods or anything, I had no idea where they were on a map compared to me or River North. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I know where that is. The thing that was a little odd, and I guess we can kind of do this in a red flag that I missed kind of way because what I'm looking at right now actually is I don't know if you could see it, is a narrative of what happened that day. And I wrote it as soon as I got home. And so it's very detailed, and I'm going to leave out some of the detail, but I'm going to give you a lot of it. So I thought it was a little strange that David wanted me to come all the way downtown Chicago to have coffee. And mind you, I had been with long-term relationship wise like one person. And so I didn't really have um I don't know, like a gauge on what I should say, hey, no, meet me halfway. Like I didn't have a gauge. I didn't really have anybody to teach me about dating. Okay. I've made bad choices and I know this, but now in hindsight, right? Probably would say no on a first date to driving all the way downtown Chicago for fucking coffee that I don't even drink. So and again, like I lived out here. So he never offered to meet me halfway. But again, I offered to drive, I think, and I think that that was me wanting to like have control and like be in my vehicle. Um, I know. That's like the first red flag for me. So I drove in rush hour traffic to get coffee at a Caribou Coffee to meet David, the doctor who worked at Rush Medical Center. Okay. So as I start getting close to Caribou Coffee with the address he provided me, I start to like recognize the area and I'm like, this is not River North. This is not River North. This is an area that I'm very familiar with, but this is not River North. I was in the heart of Boys Town and if you're not familiar with this part of Chicago, this is the gay neighborhood. There are pride flags flying everywhere from every window, huge metal sculptures with rainbows, like every street corner, amazing resale shops, show tunes bars, karaoke. Like it is a fucking fun time. Like I had gone to Roscoe's with my uncles dancing quite a few times, and so I'm like, oh wait, shit. Like I know this place. Okay. So I'm like kind of like, okay, that's a little you live in Boys Town, or maybe we're just going to a Caribou in Boys Town and he lives like around here, right? So it didn't make any sense to me, but I did find the Caribou Coffee. Miraculously, there was like a parking spot right in front. So I park. I think I was driving a Hummer at the time. I parked the Hummer and I get out and I think that I was like, I checked myself in the mirror because I was just like a little nervous. Like I hadn't done this whole dating thing at all. And I'm just like, I'm probably sweating. I don't know. But from my Hummer, I can see through the windows and I see somebody that looks like David, the man that I've been talking to. And mind you, I've been texting him the whole way there. I did hit rush hour traffic. I will say that. And it did take me way longer than I anticipated for me to get there. So I hop out and I start walking towards the coffee shop. And while, yes, we were communicating for a week, and this person had sent me pictures and I had seen the profile, there still is like a possibility that this could be like a catfish situation. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna end up on catfish and I'm gonna have to, fucking talk with Neve and all of this stuff. So I was like, I was kind of scared. But as I walk past the windows of Caribou Coffee heading towards the door, I look inside and I see this person who is the same person in the photos. And I was like, ah, okay. Here's the weird thing. As I grabbed the door handle to open the door to the Caribou Coffee, David, who was sitting at a table, who I know saw me, okay? Like I know he looked through the window and saw me and I saw him. I don't think I waved, but like definitely we saw each other. He got up from the table and he walked out a back door that I like didn't even know was there. Otherwise, I probably would have used it. And I'm like, um, what the fuck? And all of these things start going through my head, right? My heart just dropped. I'm like, what just happened? I'm like, do I look bad? Of course, I start like hitting myself with, am I too fat? Am I ugly? Am I not what he expected? Do I send pictures that don't look like me? Like, did he not see me? Like, I'm like, there's no way he didn't see me. He looked right at me. So I collect my thoughts quickly. And I honestly, like, I go to grab my phone from my back pocket and I text him and I was like, why did you just leave? I saw you walk out when I walked in. There's like no response. No response. Mind you, we were texting like right before I got there. Okay. So now I'm freaking out. And when I freak out, I sweat a lot. And so I went in the bathroom because if he came back and I'm like perspiring like this, I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be so gross. So I go to the bathroom, I blot my face, and I decide I'm gonna get a hot chocolate. I'll call him. I'll see, what he says. Like, and if he doesn't have like a logical excuse, then I'm just gonna like grab my drink and I'll just go like hang out with my uncles while I'm here. Like, no big deal. So cool, calm, and collective. I walk out of the bathroom. I go up to the counter and I order my drink. I pick it up and I sit down. So I actually have a transcript of how this phone call went. So mind you, I'm going to read it. So I called and I said, David, I walked into Caribou and I saw you sitting there and I'm pretty sure you looked right at me. And then you walked right out? He said, what? I didn't even see you. I just got tired of waiting for an hour, so I left. I figured you weren't coming. I said, I texted you. Why didn't you text me back? He said, I didn't get them. Me. Well, then, do you want to just do this another time? David. Well, I'm walking back to my apartment right now, so if you want, you can come over. What the fuck? Me. Um, I really don't know if I feel comfortable with that. David, I'll make us some coffee, show you how I play the guitar, like we talked about, then maybe we can do dinner. Then he said, if you could come pick me up, we can drive there together. That would be great. It's freezing. I don't even remember what time of year it was. So I guess it had to have been winter. I said, okay, yeah, that's fine. Where are you? Dude, what the fuck is wrong with me? This is a stranger. A stranger. I was 21. I was 21. That's all I can say. I was 21. So David proceeded to give me directions to where he was, and I pulled up and he hopped into my truck. He commented on the fact that I was such a little girl driving such a big truck, which I don't know. I feel like people always kind of say that, like something, like a Barbie in the Barbie Jeep, or like, can you see over the steering wheel? Like, whatever. It was a Hummer, but I fucking loved it and I drove it like well, okay? So when David got in the truck, he greeted me and he leaned over and gave me a hug, kissed my cheek, and put one of his hands between my upper knees. So like if I'm like right here, okay? Oof, makes me so uncomfortable already, you guys. I pulled my head back because I was like pretty shocked that he did that. Like that was very forward. And again, I wasn't getting kissed by random strangers in these days. Um, And I thought that that was like such a forward sexual move. And he had like this weird, I guess I describe it as like a sly grin on his face. And he said, I left my gloves at home. My hands are freezing and you're so damn hot. So tell me why, in my right mind, I took that as a compliment. Probably because this version of Amanda is broken and desperate for compliments. So he directed me down like a block and a half that we could have like very easily walked to, okay? He pulled a parking pass out of his pocket and he said, put this in your window. And that I would need it to like park in his neighborhood because cops write tickets all day long, blah, blah, blah. And I thought it was really odd that he had that on his person because that would mean then he anticipated me coming over and needing to park. So I was like, we had never talked about going back to his apartment like before all of this whole ordeal had happened. And so I was just like, okay, let's just remember that. So I hopped out of my Hummer and I gazed around at the buildings, and none of them fit the image of where I had imagined David the doctor that works at Rush would live. I pictured a modern building with a doorman, metal elevator that would take us up to the 24th floor, floor to ceiling windows, wood floors. Like, I think that I had an idea of what a doctor made and maybe how they would live. Um, yeah, like something just like wasn't adding up. And me being me, and it says literally right here, so I know that this is the case, I always give people the benefit of the doubt, so I proceeded on. Red flag. Red fucking flag. I feel like I'm right back in this moment, I'm not gonna lie. So, not only did we walk into the smallest building on the block, but the oldest looking one as well. The elevator that I had envisioned did not exist, okay? And we climbed up 3 flights of rickety ass dirty fucking stairs that haven't been swept till since probably the 60s. I swear to God, they were like the dark wood and there was just dust in every part of like, and I'm like, oh my God. So he pulled out his keys and unlocks three locks on his front door, two deadbolts and the doorknob, and pushed the door open. I'm not sure if I had thought anything of that because I don't know, like I never lived in the city and the my family that lived in the city, they had really nice places with doormen. So I don't know, like is this a bad part of town where you really need to have, two deadbolts and a doorknob? I'm not sure, but let me just tell you what his apartment was like. David's apartment was nothing like I expected it to be. So to get the visual going, okay? You walked into the living room, which also doubled as the bedroom because this was a studio apartment. The front door hit the entertainment center when you opened it. There was a tiny TV on the entertainment center, and there were tons of DVDs teetering all over each other, about to fall at any moment. There was a stool in the middle of the room next to a guitar on a stand. There was a bed that had a cheap maroon bedspread and cheap throw pillows. It's funny that I put this. Probably a bed in a bag from Bed Bath and Beyond or someplace like that. Directly across from the bed was a maroon futon. The most interesting part of David's apartment was his choice of wall coverings. He had theater playbills blown up as posters and framed on his walls. I don't remember specifically which playbills, but they were bright and didn't match any of his other decor or theme that he had going in this place. He didn't offer to give me a grand tour of his apartment. I think he could tell I wasn't too impressed with it, and I think he knew that I had expected something completely different. When we entered his apartment, his attitude changed completely. He went from the sweet, nice to meet you, David, to bossy and rude. He took my coat off and threw it on the futon and gestured for me to sit down next to him on his bed. He told me to set my things next to my jacket on the futon. Whew. Immediately, in that moment, I knew that something was wrong. I knew that once I had parted from my purse, where my phone was, I was giving up all of my power. Something came over me, and I knew I had made a horrible choice in coming to David's apartment. My stomach turned to knots, and I started to get sweaty and filled with anxiety. When I sat down on his bed next to him, I looked towards the front door to see how, if needed, I could escape. When I looked at the doorknob, not only did I notice all the locks, but I also noticed something I overlooked upon entering the apartment. There was a rope hanging off the inside doorknob, and the rope was tied perfectly into a noose. So here's me, okay? We'll venture away from this narrative for a second. Old Amanda really did paint a good scene, let me tell you. I remember sitting there and I remember looking around at this place like, this guy's not a doctor. Show tunes, movie posters, like, why am I here? Why? Like, I don't think that in my mind that I thought of like, oh, I should have vetted him out better because I thought I did. I thought I really did. But I had made the mistake of being like, yeah, no, 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 I'll come over. Yeah, like, and seeing that old ass dark wood door with, he had unlocked from the outside two deadbolts and like the doorknob, right? But there was also like one of those little like latch things from like a hotel with a chain. There was like two of those. And then seeing that there was a noose, legitimately a noose, a small noose. It wasn't like a big one, but tied around the doorknob. I was like, and it like took my breath away. So I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? Who was this person, right? My mind really kind of went blank. And for anybody who's been in a situation where you enter fight or flight, I think that that's what that feels like. It feels like blankness. Like you can't say anything. You don't really know what to do. It's just whatever your normal reaction to trauma and bad situations is what's going to happen next. So I knew that I was either going to have to like submit myself to him or fight. And he was a pretty skinny guy, but like I knew that I'm not a fighter. Like I fought with my brother when I was little. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Punch him? Like I don't know. Like I just there wasn't any part of me that was like, yeah, yeah, we're gonna throw hands with this stranger. Yeah. I'm getting really like warm and uncomfortable telling this story. This is so crazy. Okay. So, he was relatively tall too, I guess. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but he did lock the two deadbolts behind us as we entered, which I think also kind of like caught me off guard, like, fuck, you know? Um, and like, how many weapons are in this place? I don't know. There's definitely knives because it's an apartment. There's a noose. Like, I don't have my cell phone is like not within reach. I hadn't also I hadn't told anyone where I was going because everyone at this point was kind of like a little bit irritated, I think, with me and like my um I guess that they would be like they call it like serial dating, but I wasn't even going out on dates with people. I was more so like just doing a lot of swiping because I was like, "Oh, this is new. This is fun." Like, I had finally gotten into that moment where I was like, "I think I can date somebody again." So I was like going head first into it. So I hadn't told anybody where I was. And I was like, "Holy shit." I don't know. I don't remember if we had like Find My Friends at that point. Like, I have no clue. But if we did, I would say that I probably had it turned off because I didn't want anyone to know that I was going on a date. Like, I felt like I was getting like a scarlet letter for dating after. So yeah. David stood up and stood in front of me and he grabbed me by my face like this, squeezing my cheeks. And he said, ugh, I can't even say it. Ugh. Wow, you are so beautiful, baby girl. Have I ever told you that? You make daddy so happy. And he said this to me in the most disgusting fucking tone of voice I had ever heard in my entire life. It may be because I'm also like scared for my life, but I'm like, ugh, bro. He said, Daddy wants to give you a bath. You're going to listen to everything that Daddy says. Otherwise, you're going to get tied up. Do you hear me? I don't know if I said yes or if I nodded or what affirmation of me hearing him I did. But as soon as I referenced yes that I had heard him, he flat out smacked me across the face. Open hand. And to be very, very clear, okay, at this point in my life, and actually still, like I've never been smacked across the face other than that. Like, what the fuck? Like, Oh, guys, this is fucking difficult and embarrassing and uncomfortable. It's just all of like the things. Um, he said, "Did Daddy tell you you could speak, baby girl?" And I nodded my head no because fuck, like I don't want to be smacked again, right? And he says, "That's a good baby girl," as he strokes my hair. He said, "Now you're going to keep this in your mouth the entire time you're in Daddy's presence. Okay, baby girl?" As he shoves a pink pacifier into my mouth. He then drapes a baby bib, yes, a bib, around my neck and starts to undress me. I closed my eyes and resisted a little bit, and tears obviously start flowing because I know for certain, like, I'm about to be raped. And I can't believe after everything that everyone has ever told me about being careful on a date that this was where I find myself. Not only in a situation where this is going to be the outcome, but with a fucking pacifier in my mouth and a baby's bib in an apartment in Boys Town. Okay? Imagine all of those things on top of like the looming whatever's going to happen. So he pulls my top off and he starts with my pants, and soon I'm only like in my panties and my clothes are thrown into a pile on the floor. So he pulls something out of his pocket. And so I guess if I remember correctly, he was wearing jeans and a sweater, maybe like with a button up underneath, like very Oxford, but not even, it wasn't not like anything nice. It was like maroon color probably. So he pulled something out of his pocket and he told me to turn around and do as I'm told. As he starts tying my wrists. So, mind you, he's tying my wrists behind my back. I don't have anything on my top. I have panties. I'm assuming at some point my shoes came off because I didn't reference that here. And he's tying my wrists behind my back using the same rope, or so it feels, that was tied into a noose on the door knob. I feel like now the noose was put there intentionally to invoke like this kind of fear. And again, I've had 12 years of reflecting on this. And every time I think about all of the different pieces of this scenario, it's like that was put there to say, I'm gonna fucking scare you. Are you scared? And it worked. I was. So he leads me into the bathroom, and as I mentioned before, this is a very old apartment building, old building in Chicago. So the bathroom is very old as well. Really tiny square tiles, white, grout, white, pedestal sink, white, old fucking toilet, white. And there is a bathtub kind of pushed up against the back wall of the bathroom. It was a small bathroom, but it was a clawfoot white tub. And it had a shower curtain that was kind of like an opaque white. And it looks like everything from every fucking horror movie that you've ever seen, like Psycho. Um, yeah. The fact that the bathroom was so white and so clean, I remember being led with my hands tied around my back into this bathroom. And I remember my first thought seeing it was how crazy all of my blood was going to look all over it. Like stark contrast. That's maybe where my true crime, I don't know, where my true crime obsession started. Because before that, I didn't really even listen to anything, but that's really what I thought, you guys. Oh, and I was like, this is going to be a horrific crime scene. And I'm like, God, how did I get here? How did I get here? I remember praying in my head too, like, God, if you get me through this, I will never, ever, ever go on another internet date again. I promise, I promise. So he sits me down on the toilet, okay? And he closes the door to the very small bathroom. The bathtub is so old looking and it's porcelain. The faucet is chrome, but the knobs are porcelain, like the ones that had a little like cold and hot. And it looked to this is actually funny and super emotional, you guys. It looked like the perfect bath that like you could have the most calming water up to the shoulders, lavender, peaceful bath in, like Mariah Carey in her music videos bath. And I remember thinking like, yeah, this is not going to be calming or peaceful, and I don't even know like legit if I'm going to be alive to remember it. Mind you, like I'm not saying anything. I'm not resisting. I don't want to get smacked or worse. I don't know what this person is capable of. Um, so as he is drawing the bath, and let me just paint this part too. He's putting Johnson and Johnson lavender baby bath in the bath. Dude is making like cooing baby noises. Okay? I start to kind of like mess around with the rope behind my back. So my hands are kind of tied like this, but behind me. And I'm realizing that he didn't like tie it tight at all because I'm like, either he must be like an amateur or this is all mental because I was pretty positive that at that moment that I could have just like wiggled out of that, you know? And I think if you've had your hands tied before, you can feel like if you can or you can't just by feeling. And I'm like, he must be trying to mind fuck me. Like, no, like he is trying to mind fuck me. And I'm like, he is trying to mind fuck the wrong person. I'm like, I will not let him mind fuck me. So I make a decision right there. And I'm pretty sure that it's the decision that saved my life. He pulls me over to the bathtub and he pushes me in, but not before he rips my panties down. So now he's not being like this like nice kind, ooh, baby girl daddy, like he's being mean. And you can kind of see it in his face. Like I hate to think of what his face looks like. I literally hate it so much. So he's like, daddy's going to wash you in the fucking grossest tone of all time. So here I am in this beautiful antique bathtub on my knees with my arms tied behind my back in the ever so ironic submissive pose. Think about like 50 Shades of Grey, like all of those, like that submissive pose. Head down, staring at the floor of the tub, watching the barely lukewarm bubbly water that smells like Johnson and Johnson rise like above basically my kneecaps. So I was kind of on my knees. David takes my hair and roughly pulls it into like a messy ponytail. And he's using a rubber band, like a rubber band. So like, you know, if you're a woman and you're listening to this, you know how it feels if you put a office rubber band in your hair. As you're wrapping it around, right? It pulls, it rips, it hurts. And especially when the dude who's putting your hair up doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, right? So now my hair's up in a half-ass ponytail on top of my head. And he goes and he grabs something under the sink. And he pulls out from under the sink a pink box. Baby pink. Kind of like this. And inside are a washcloth, baby bath toys, and a cup. And I know I thought to myself, like, thank God, because, like, I swear to God, I was like, there's gonna be fucking sex toys, weapons. Like, I don't know. I don't know what's coming next. And I don't, you're probably thinking to yourself, like, how could you sit there and not, like, try and fight? And I'm like, it was so clear to me, and I believed so much through and through that I was going to be raped and murdered that I didn't want to, like, speed up that process. Like, I don't know how to explain that unless you've gone through something like this. I think you'd get it, but so he puts the toys in the bath and he wets the washcloth and places it on my knees. He fills the cup up with water and he pours it over my shoulders and my back. And the water is cold. And I remember shivering like uncontrollably, like I couldn't stop shaking. And he goes, "Does that feel good, baby girl?" He fucking knew that it didn't, you know? Like this was all such mental coercive manipulation. And I nodded my head and said yes anyways. Meanwhile, I literally still have like a pacifier in my mouth, okay? And I just remember thinking how fucking annoying it was, and that if someone saw me like this in this, the whole picture about, like, my reputation would be ruined. I can't believe, like, actually reading this back right now, it actually makes me so fucking sad that in that moment, as I'm like legitimately fearing for my life, that I was thinking about my reputation when like my life was on the line, and I could die tonight in this moment, you know, and no one wouldn't even know where I was or like who I was with or what I was doing. And here I was fucking thinking about my reputation. Side note, I had gone through some like really, really, really shitty stuff after my divorce with cyber harassment and bullying and being put on the dirty.com and all of these things that really like it was a direct attack towards me and my reputation. So that's why that was always in the forefront of my mind is like, okay, what else can someone do to ruin me? And that's why I feel very strongly about those things and the internet and speaking up. So he drops the cup and he grabs my face with one hand and he pulls my ponytail back with the other. And he got really, really close to like my ear. And he said, "Now you hold still." And he stands up and he pulls his phone from his pocket. And it was an Android. I put in here. An Android, go figure. Fake doctor, shitty apartment, can't even afford an iPhone. The fact that I could be witty. Poor this version of me, you guys. Ugh. Sorry. I needed like 5 seconds there. Okay. So I know that I'm like wondering like if he's gonna call some of like his other like sick fucking freak friends over to come bathe me, you know? Like at this point, I think that I've made the I've come to terms with like, okay, like dude likes like the baby play, right? Like you pretend like you're a baby, I pretend like I'm your parent, which is fucking crazy because like I mean, all of you true crime ladies and gents out there, you know that people who enjoy that stuff eventually do go on to become pedophiles if they don't stop that, okay? So, these are all my thoughts, okay? I wonder if he's gonna call some of his other freak friends to come and bathe me. Sick fucking individuals. Is he washing me so that he can cut up my body? Is he going to eat me? I've seen way too many CSIs for this shit, yet here I am, bound by a rope on my knees in cold ass water in a studio apartment in Boys Town. So he says, "Turn towards me, baby girl. Look up at daddy." He says, David says, "Turn towards me, baby girl. Look up at daddy," as he snaps a picture of me. And I'm like, no, this cannot be happening. First thing I think of is porn site. I'm going to be uploaded to some porn site. Baby fetish. Wow. I spit out the pacifier that has been in my mouth. And for the first time in I don't know how long, because I don't know the time frame of this. Like, time was not a thing. I said, David, you need to delete those pictures. I can't have anyone see those pictures of me. And I started to cry. I I was like, I can't take this anymore. He continued to take pictures of me crying, and then he put his phone into his pocket. He pulls me up to a standing position by my bound arms. So we're looking at each other now eye to eye. Tears in mine and like a very crazy, excited like gleam in his. And he reaches his hand out and he like runs his fingers along my vagina. What a pretty, nice, shaven kitty cat my baby girl has. And my tears just kind of went away. And I'm like, is this where it gets sexual? And like, I like affirm, yep, this is where it gets sexual. Totally. Because you can see like dudes like boner like sticking through his pants. I'm like, what a disgusting fuck, you know? His face is so close to mine while he's assaulting me. And to be clear, not that it makes a difference legally or in my brain, truthfully. Um, but he only touches, never enters. And I'm the opposite of aroused. But I thought of something in that moment. And I think that this is something that maybe the women my age can relate to or recall. But at some point in my life, my girlfriends and I had had a conversation about ever being in this position, you know. Um, I think that we had said something along the lines of like, if I was ever about to be raped, I would just pretend like I wanted it. That way, the guy would be turned off sexually because in my mind, and I'm not sure if this is, you know, all situations of this, I don't think so at least, um, is that they like the struggle more than the actual like sexual act, I think. So I turn my fear off somehow. And my actress on. And I move my body in a way that would, I guess, spell out to him that I was enjoying what he was doing. I know I threw my head back as if I was like aroused by him doing what he was doing. And then I think this is actually the part that saved my life. I kissed him. I leaned in and I kissed him long, hard, and with tongue. And whenever I've told this story to like my people, I feel like that kiss, right? When I've described this to my friends in the past, my close friends, because not all of my friends know this, and a lot of you are going to be like, Amanda, what the fuck? Can you hear this? Um, Imagine if you had one opportunity to make an impression on someone via kiss. Otherwise, you're dead. Imagine how much effort and what an act you would put into that kiss. And if you had to, could you do it? How good would that kiss be? So I think he was shocked by this. Actually, I know he was shocked by this because I was there. And he kind of like holds there, like for a minute, right? With his eyes still closed. And then he kind of like regains this composure. He says, I didn't expect my baby girl to be so talented. You are certainly one of a kind. He then takes my hands bound behind my back and he is kind of pushing me back down onto my knees in the bathtub. And he starts to run the water again. But this time, he's putting, just kind of, it's probably like this, holding my wrists that are tied so fucking loosely. I'm on my knees and my head would be here, right? The faucet's here. He's pushing my head with this rubber band kind of as like a knob, right? Pushing my head underneath the running water, waterboarding me essentially with cold water. And I could breathe because my face was down. And so it was kind of like sideways and down. So it wasn't completely like all over like my fucking nose and mouth. Um, but he would put my face underwater and he would hold it and then he would take it out. And as he would take it out, I remember making fake noises of like I was being waterboarded because I knew that that's what he wanted. And then he would do it again like that. And I think he did it like 3 or 4 times. I don't recall. And then he stands me up and he grabbed a pink towel. Don't remember where it came from. And he starts to dry me off. So at this point, like again, these ropes are loose as fuck. Okay. So they're basically like falling off my wrists at this point. And now like they're all wet too. He noticed them being kind of loose and he actually tightened them. And he tightens them like the tightest that they've been this whole time. Now I'm like, I get scared again because if you think about like the power shift here, I, I think in those moments, it was like, I'm in a compromising position. He's taking photos of me. He's totally in control, right? But then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do something about it. I'm not gonna fucking break free and, clobber him over the head with a frying pan or whatever you see in movies, but I need to do something psychological to like get out of this. And so when I did that, when I kissed him, when I pretended like I liked what he was doing, I felt like the power dynamic shifted us back maybe to even. And I think that he didn't like that. And so I think that's why he proceeded with like the waterboarding thing to kind of uneven that power dynamic. And then again with like tightening the ropes. Um, he also shoves the pacifier back in my mouth. And he said, I need you to remember who the boss is. Daddy is the boss, baby girl. Understand? And then he kissed the pacifier that was in my mouth. So, like the outside of the pacifier. So, it's funny that I put this. I put his once half chub that he had in the bathroom is now a full-on raging boner as he walks me out of the bathroom and back into the living room. He lays a dry towel on the bed and tells me to lay down on my back with my feet in the air. And I'm like, fucking really? And I remember looking at the front door because, you're back in that room and you're just trying to like assess the situation, and there's the fucking noose and my purse is right there, like my jacket with the phone in the pocket, everything was like within my reach. Like everything was right there. And if you've ever been in a situation like this, it's like I'm still alive right now. I can't change anything about it. Like I don't really think that like this whole like fight back, run for the door, like I don't think that that's something that every single person just has in them to do. Like I don't, because like I certainly didn't. So, um I lay down and he pulls a box from under his bed that I assume again are sex toys or more rope or something. Baby powder, wipes, diaper. And I am literally the most not kidding. Now grab your ankles, Angel. Daddy's going to powder that clean shaved little kitty cat, is what he said with a smirk on his face. And I do as I'm told. And I have to pull my bound arms up like around my legs to do this because I'm like, the fuck? Like, from this position, I probably could have kicked him so hard in the face that he would have passed out, but I was scared. I truly didn't want to die. And if I defied him, like, would he kill me? I have no idea. Again, brain goes back to white bathroom, blood everywhere. Like Dexter shit. He wasn't hurting me. So if I made it through this, I could live with it. And that is something that I thought. So he put baby powder on me, right? Just like you would a fucking infant. And proceeded to put an adult-sized diaper on me. I'm pretty sure that it was like a depends. Like, how clever. Sick fuck. And then he pulled out his phone and he started taking more pictures, and the tears started flowing again. And he liked that. He liked when I was crying. He leaned in and he pulled a pacifier out of my mouth and he stuck his tongue down my throat. And that's when it all made sense. He got off on humiliating me. You've been such a good girl for Daddy. We're going to do this again, aren't we? As he takes the adult-sized diaper off of me and wipes clean all of the baby powder again, violating me. I nod my head. Even though the pacifier is out of my mouth, I want to scream, fuck you, you dirty son of a bitch. I'm gonna cut your dick off. He puts his phone in his pocket and sits on the stool that is next to the guitar. I'm laying on my back. My hands are bound on his disgusting bed. And he said, you may get dressed now. And I'm shocked. I remember being so cold in the bathtub. And I remember when I'm anxious, I get hot. Like I'm hot right now. I'm sure my chest has like turned all different shades of pink. How fitting. Um, but I remember being so, so like my skin probably felt like fire. And as soon as he said, you can get dressed, or whatever the fuck he said, I remember it being like, just like blood, just like everything just drained out of my body because I was like, wait a minute, is it over? Is this over? I'm shocked, right? This is what I write. And again, I wrote this the day that this happened. So in the evening when I got home, I'm shocked. I made it. I slowly get to my feet and I walk over to him and turn around so he can undo my bound wrists. And they actually hurt because he had tightened them. But actually, no, see? Okay, wait. They actually hurt. Walk over to him so he can undo my bound wrists. They actually hurt since he tightened them. But since they're in front of me now, my shoulders don't hurt as bad. That's right, because I had to like fucking hold my feet like a fucking infant. So they were in front of me but tight. So once he's done untying me, he takes off the baby bib. Yes, that's been there the whole time. He looks me in my eyes and does a once over of my naked body, undoes the rubber band that is in my hair and lets my hair fall over my shoulders. And he says, oh my God, this is so creepy. You are different from all the others that I have bathed before, baby girl. He said, you're special. And I replied, thank you, Daddy. Then and now, it sends chills down my spine to allow those words to come out of my mouth like that. I could have said that in that moment without completely vomiting or I don't know, like rolling my eyes. Um, but like what? Am I gonna like break character now? Can't do it. So I turn away and I walk towards my clothes that are lying in a sad fucking pile on the disgusting, dusty floor, and I lean over to pick them up. And all of a sudden, he's right next to me. Here are your panties from the bathroom, baby girl. Can't leave without your panties, you bad girl. I just need to get out of here. So I put my panties on quickly and dress before he changes his mind and decides he wants to kill me. I put my jacket on. I tighten the belt. It was a trench coat, I think, around my waist. I put my hand in my pocket and make sure that my phone is there and I feel safe. And I put my purse over my shoulder. And I walked over to him and I said, thanks for having me over, Daddy. David said, we had such a good time. You were so good. I said, it was nice to meet you. And he said, we will be in touch, baby girl. I'm not letting you go. Trust me. And I said, will you do me a favor and not show anyone those pictures? And David said, they're for my personal use only. And I said, I've had some serious incidents with pictures on the internet, alluding to the dirty, not like anything was like naked of me, but like pictures on the internet of me, people fucking defaming me. Like, I just didn't need that, especially like that. Think about that, especially like that. Okay. And he said, don't worry, baby girl. Daddy has this under control. He hugs me, kisses my forehead, and unlocks the deadbolts. And I'm free. As I'm walking out, mind you, I know this person's first and last name. I still do. Okay. Now I have their address. I have their phone number. I could describe the place that they lived. I'm in full blown, like, take mental, thicky, like, snapshot mode, okay? and I take note of his apartment number, 3B. I walk down the stairs and I see the mailboxes and I look for 3B. Oh, you know what? I didn't have the last name. This is where I got the last name. And I look for 3B. David, fake last name, okay? Rothbury. Gotcha. So I walk outside and I copy the address that I had in my notes with the other information that I had just kind of got. I think that I took photos from like POV looking at the apartment complex. I know I took a photo of the mailbox. Um, and it's like cold and dark outside. So it definitely was winter. I can see my breath, but like most important to me was like I could see my Hummer. And I'm free. He's not following me, but like I need to get in my safe space of my vehicle. So I start running to it. And once I'm inside, I just break down crying, hysterically crying, and I'm like I need like who can I call? And I'm like I can't call my mom because she's told me time and time again that something like this would happen. I can't call my best friend because she is probably sitting at home. I think actually at this time, me and her had an apartment in West Dundee. So I wasn't even living here. I was living out here, but we had our own apartment. And like she's going to be back in our apartment. Like what, like she told me not to go on dates. So like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what can I do? I'm like, I just need to drive away. I just need to drive away. While I'm driving, I'm thinking about how bad this could potentially be for me. So, right, photos could end up on a porn site. They could end up on what we know now as the dark web. They could end up on a mainstream site like the dirt. Who knows? But like, I could be ruined, right? And I'm thinking about this because in that moment, excuse me, in that moment of my life, people were perpetually cyber harassing, bullying, defaming me on the internet, so much so that something would pop up, I would pay my own money to get it removed. And as soon as it was removed, another one would be put up. And the process is the same for each one. It's not like you get a canvas blanket, nothing about Amanda can be on this website. No, third party submission rules or whatever it was back then. So I had to pay so much money to get those removed that eventually the last one I just fucking left up. And now, thank God, that website's gone. Like completely gone off the internet. So thank you, whoever did that. Like, and so I'm thinking about my reputation and the photos mostly. And then I realize that like that that stuff like doesn't even matter. I was just like sexually and physically assaulted. And it was pretty clear at that point, like what I needed to do. So I pulled over and I Googled Chicago Police Department, not emergency, even though in hindsight, this was an emergency. But I think that I don't know if, I don't know if to say like I have such a high threshold for pain, it like explains it right because it wasn't like physical pain, but I think that my tolerance of that kind of abuse for some reason was just like so high. I think that I had been just so belittled, humiliated, and hurt in the years following my divorce and even during my the year I got married, all of 2011 and some of 2012, that the feeling that I was feeling was very similar to that. It was embarrassment, it was degradation, humiliation, all of those things. I think that my threshold for that was way higher than the normal person's because um, I had just gone through it. And it's like, if you can't change anything because you can't control other people and I can't control these websites and the laws, like, you just have to, like, bite the bullet and just, like, suck it up. And so this suck it up version of me was this like tough skinned version. Um, so I found the number for Chicago Police Department non-emergency and I call And a woman answers, and I said I need to speak with an officer immediately, that I had just been sexually assaulted. So I get transferred, and a woman gets on the line again, and this was the conversation. The officer said, "Hello, this is Officer whoever the fuck. Who am I speaking with?" And I go, "This is Amanda Arnier." The officer says, "Can you tell me what happened, ma'am?" And I go over everything. Very detailed, like you guys have heard today. Okay. And the officer goes, "How old are you, Miss Arnier?" And I said, "I'm 23." Which I think now I was 22, but I might have been 23. It might be a year off. It's a long time ago, guys. And the officer said, "And you willingly went to this man's house after you met him for a date?" And I'm like, "Well, we didn't exactly go on a date. I mean, well, yeah, like," and the officer, I'll never forget this, you guys. The officer said, "If this is a man that you're dating," and she said it like very sarcastically, "if this is a man that you're dating, then there is no crime here unless sexual acts were performed. You are 23, Miss Arnier. I suggest you start filtering who you date better." And I said, "But I feared for my life. I was tied up. He took nude photos of me. I couldn't make it stop." And she says, "Ma'am, there's nothing that we can do. We're glad you're safe now, but I hope that you have learned from this experience." And I hung up the phone, dude. Like, utter disbelief. I remember I lit a cigarette and I drove home, like, in silence, no music, nothing. And I sent a text to my therapist at the time, still my therapist, and requested an appointment. And I sent a text to my lawyer requesting an appointment. Um, I knew that if those pictures resurfaced, that I would need the attorney. And I wanted to talk to him about, like, I have this man's personal information, where he lives, his name, like everything, like what can we do? Um, and I knew that I was going to need a counselor, because I knew that that experience was really going to be something that I relived over and over again. So that is that story. I think actually that's probably the most like horrifically graphic story experience that I have had. And if I think about today, because there's actually been like some podcast episodes where I'm a guest on them, and people are like, well, they're trying to like understand my psyche, right? And they're like, "Well, have you been assaulted? Have you been sexually assaulted? Like anything with parents?" And like I always say no. Um, I know that that counts as being sexually assaulted. Like I totally know that, but I just never in my mind like would allow myself to say like, yeah, because I felt like I had won that situation. So fast forward to today, okay? Um, Actually, don't fast forward to today. My lawyer, I did get a chance to talk with him. I think it was on the way home that day. Um, he had called me, told him what had happened, and I gave him all of the information. So like LinkedIn was also just starting to kind of like become a thing, right? And you know how on LinkedIn, if you look up somebody's um, name, you go on their page, it says like so and so viewed your profile. So this person had like all of the social media and the dating profile and a LinkedIn, which he was also like, um, he was like in school to be a doctor. He was like in residency. He was not a doctor. And he was a server at a restaurant. Yeah. Like a high-end steakhouse, like or like a Shaw's or I don't know, something like that downtown. When my attorney got his first and last name, the first thing he did was he went on LinkedIn and he was like, we're going to do some scare tactic shit. He goes, if he's connected with you on LinkedIn and I go and I look at his page, it'll say, okay, like, you know, Steve Smith, the attorney who's friends with Amanda, is viewing your page. And so when he did that, David shut down all of his social media platforms and the dating site. And there was not a photo, any, like, you could not find anything on him on the internet. Now, granted, that was back before I was like the best investigator, internet sleuth known to man. I could probably find things, this version of me back then. Okay. So, really, nothing ever came of that. I just went to therapy about it and I vowed to be a lot better at vetting strangers out and meeting people. And I definitely didn't stop internet dating, but there was this piece of me that now the what everyone said could happen did happen to me. And so now that was real. It wasn't just like a, something you see in the movies. It did happen to me. So I was very cautious about that moving forward. Fast forward to today. Why did I now just think about sharing this? This person looks at my LinkedIn, will watch my stories, and basically on any social platform that you can see if someone's viewing your stuff, I have seen his name there multiple times over the past 12 years. And it's fucking jarring like every time. And for somebody to go through what I went through and for him to know what he did to me and how that could literally be like he could be put in jail for that. For him to do that and to continue to look at my profiles just for some sort of like manipulative fucking jerking off, like whatever, I needed to talk about it because I know that he listens to my podcast because I've seen him on the podcast story views. So, hello. And his name is David. And if karma, is a thing, one of the funny things, I guess not funny, but it's really just like karmic of this whole situation. He had a stroke, so like half of his fucking face is like all droopy. Serves you right, motherfucker. But yeah, that is probably the worst thing that has ever happened to me. Um, Dick knew about that, actually. I told Dick about that. I've told majority of the people that I've seriously dated about that story because I think that it's a piece of me that maybe something later will come up from that I won't even recognize is there. Um, there was never like from Dick like I'm gonna find him, I'm gonna fucking kill him. Like nothing ever. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, oh, that's a shitty story. If I think about like the person that I'm dating now and me trying to tell this story to him, he wouldn't even let me get past like seeing the noose on the door. He can't stand to hear that that had happened to me. And yeah, you live and you learn for sure. But I will say that you have to be smart, you guys. You have to be so smart because Think about it, like everything that that man did, from getting up when I walked in to having the parking pass to the noose around the door to having all of that like baby shit. Everything was planned. And so this is an extreme experience, right? An example. But if you take it and you think about just coercion or emotional abuse or whatever, right? I think we oftentimes err on the side of, oh, he's just an asshole. Oh, he's just an asshole. Like there's no way he could have planned all that. No. Yes, there is. There is. People are calculated. Predators are calculated. And they will do just about anything to achieve this feeling, like this, like, they get off on it, okay? You guys, there's a spider on my microphone, like, crawling down towards me right now. And I'm like, I'm fucking so fucking scared. Oh my God. God, how is this possible? Dude. Oh my God, where did it go? Okay, well, Mr. Spider, thanks for joining us. Oh, he's right there. Ah! I flicked him. Fuck. Anyways, I don't even know where I'm the most sweaty right now as I've been this whole time. Holy shit. Okay. We're gonna wrap up. So that is one of two stories that I'm going to tell you, and I hope that one that wasn't super triggering for anyone. It was triggering for me, but I have to get that out of my soul. I don't think that a lot of people know a lot of things about me that incite shame for me, because I've kept my life and the bad things that have happened and the bad choices that I've made. I've kept that really close to the vest. I don't ever want to appear like a stupid fucking idiot, even though I was. And the only way that we can make better choices is if we learn from the bad ones that we make. So I learned from that, and I hope that anybody who is online dating, just regular dating, not online dating, which is like, I don't know how you do that, but if you guys have like any questions about like how to do that safely, please reach out to me, because I have a whole slew of things that I can send you for you to verify, background check, just all the things, these people, before you go out and meet them. Because as that man said, he said, you're different from all the other girls I have bathed. What happened to those other girls? Do you think that they turned their actress on and pretended like they liked it and got away? I don't know. No one knows. All I know is that I did, and that hearing this story, now you have tools to make sure that you never end up in this situation. And with that, my name's Amanda Arnier, and this is the Dichotomy Diaries. Thanks for tuning in.
It's not over yet till you taste regret. It's not over.